Hi guys, Dan here from Canada Abroad, and thanks so much for tuning in. Today we are going to be talking about what to expect from the Express Entry system for the second part of 2022. Now, on Friday, the Immigration Minister, the Honorable Sean Fraser, made an announcement that finally Express Entry draws for the Canadian Experience class and federal skilled workers would be resuming in July of this year. So for federal skilled workers, more so than the CEC, this is amazing news because they have not seen a draw that included them since December 2020. So there has been a huge accumulation of people in the Express Entry pool who have been patiently waiting for invitations to apply. So if you have fallen out of the pool, your profile's expired, maybe your language test has expired. If you were wondering when those draws were going to pick up again, they have said it is going to be July 2022. But everyone is asking a great question. What is the score going to be? Are you going to need a 500? Are you going to need a 600 to be selected? This is the question on everybody's mind. So what we're going to do is look at the number that are currently in the Express Entry system. So IRCC gives us this information every time they do an Express Entry draw. So it lets us see how many people were in the system as of the day of the draw. So we could see a breakdown of how many people are at each score, so to speak. So this is the distribution of how many people were in the Express Entry pool before the latest draw. So every time that the government does an Express Entry draw, they release this table so that we can see how many people were in the system the day or so before the draw occurred. So this allows us to see how many people were in certain ranges of scores. So as you can see, quite a high number of people above the 451 mark. So all of these bolded numbers, these are just totals of the numbers below. So if we want to look at a specific bracket like 491 to 500, we can see how many people were in that bracket. Now that we know that draws are resuming in July, and if they decide to stick to the schedule of doing a draw every 2 weeks, we should see approximately 14 draws between July and the end of 2022. So if we take their target for this year, so when I say target, I mean the number of people that they want to select from the federal high skilled program. So that's all of the programs that go through Express Entry. Their immigration target is 55,900 people this year. If we then divide that by approximately 14 draws, we see that they should be selecting around 3,992 people in each of those draws. Okay. So obviously these numbers can change. Maybe they're going to do draws less frequently. They may do more draws. That can change the number, but it should be an estimated 3,992 people per draw. Okay. If we take that and we look at how many people are in the system at different scores, it would take about 4 draws to clear out those people with a score of 481 or higher. Now, that is only if nobody else enters the Express Entry system. Because as we know, people can come into the system every day and profiles can expire every day. So these numbers will change. Just because there's a certain amount of people in the system this week, in 2 weeks' time, you could get an influx of people at this score. Or you could get some of these people, dropping out of the system. So that is going to change as well. So there is no guarantee of how many draws it's going to take for someone to be selected. But this is just to give you an idea. If they're selecting just under 4,000 people per draw, well, you could look at this table and see how many people it might take that need to be removed from the system before you have a chance of getting selected. I mean, if you're below 451,
you can see there's going to be over 57,000 people that need to be removed from the system before you'll be picked. Considering their target for this year is only 55,900, your odds would not be very good of being chosen this year. So you can get kind of a clear indication of where you would be sitting by looking at this table and just how many people they expect to pick this year. So that's when you might want to look at ways to increase your score still, or different provincial nominee options. Now, the other unknown, I know we're trying to talk about what to expect from Express Entry this year, but one of the things that we need to realize is one of the things to expect is uncertainty. We know that the draws are going to resume in July, but we don't know, are they going to do all category draws? So that's ones that include federal skilled workers, Canadian experience class all at one time. Or are they going to do some draws for the Canadian experience class, some draws for federal skilled workers, separate draws for provincial nominees? I mean, if they do that, depending how many people they target in each of those categories, that can dictate what kind of scores we're going to be looking at. What I mean by this is we know that they did quite a few draws that were just for the Canadian experience class and didn't include federal skilled workers. If they decide, okay, we've been excluding the federal skilled workers since December of 2020, let's do one massive draw for them. Well, then those scores for federal skilled workers could be lower than what we're expecting. So that is the uncertainty. We know the draws are resuming, but we don't know if they're going to be all category or if they're going to do separate draws for each category. So that is something that we are going to have to watch out for. But like I said, if we look at these numbers, we know that their target is 55,900 people for this year for Express Entry applicants. That means those with a score below 451 do not have a very good chance of being selected unless they can bring their score up. So this is to give you at least some indication of what you can expect. But like you are able to see here, if we look at the first few draws, if they are selecting about 4,000 people per draw, well, it's going to take a few draws for it to be below 500. And then it could take 4 draws, again, if nobody is entering the system, to come down into the 481 region. So that is going to give you a little bit of an indicator what to expect for July and August and potentially September. Depending how many people flood the system once they see draws are resuming again, we might see the score go back up, or we might see it come down if nobody else is really rushing to get into the system.
Now, the other thing to remember is that application fees are increasing on April 30th, 2022. So anybody who is going to be selected from the Express Entry system in these upcoming draws is going to have to pay the new application fees. So if you weren't aware of these, you can just click above and it'll take you to the video where we just break down the increase in each of the fees. So it's application fees and right of permanent residency fees that are going to be increasing. Now, another thing that could potentially come up in some of these draws, of course, it's been mentioned in passing in a few discussions, but nothing has been confirmed, but everyone is going to talk about it. So I'm just going to note it. There's been hints that they may do targeted draws. So they might say, yes, this draw is for federal skilled workers, but only if you fall within one of the following NOC codes. So this is something that could potentially be implemented later this year as well. If we get any kind of official update, we will let you know. But those draws will resume in July, and hopefully we are going to see quite a few people selected in each draw so that we could try to clear out the backlog and bring those CRS scores down to a more reasonable level. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Canadian immigration news and updates.